Madam Chair, we live.
Thank you. Today is February 13th and the time is 5:10 p.m. I'm calling to order the Baldwin Park Stakeholders Oversight Committee regular meeting. Pastor Jackson, can you please lead us in an invocation?
Heavenly Father, we come before you right now in the name of the Lord and giving you praise, glory, and honor and thanksgiving. Lord, you said to acknowledge you in all of our ways and you would direct our path. And this is what we need here in Baldwin Park with the SOC program, with the tasks that we have to do, that you will lead, guide, and direct us in the right decisions, the right way that we should go. In the name of the Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now, if you can please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which is one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Chief Deputy City Clerk Quinones, can I please have a roll call?
Yes. Chair Lara,
Here.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Here.
Member Hernandez,
Here.
Member Martha Cargamo,
Here.
Member Orozco. You'll be arriving shortly. Member Rodriguez,
She's not going to make it.
Member Van Wyn.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. At this moment, we will open public communications. Chief Deputy City Clerk Quinones, is there anyone wishing to speak?
We haven't received any comment cards.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else looking to speak that did not fill out a speaker card, now is your time. Seeing none, we will move on to new business. First on the agenda, we have the Measure BP investment opportunity categories, formulation and prioritization.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is what I'm hoping will be the conclusion of what has been a lengthy engagement discussion with between the SOC and the community. And in fact, a good part of the work of the SOC up until now involved this item, which was to formulate a guideline by which the SOC can consider proposals for funding, requests for funding, among in ways in which those proposals could be categorized or grouped into areas of priority, if you will. And we had the SOC had initially considered a draft of those categories, which deliberately we had grouped them by letter and not by number, so that there was no insinuation of any preference or any priority among the categories. In effect, all categories are of equal standing. And so you held 3 community engagement meetings in various parts of the city at different times. And in those, you know, the interest was good in terms of the participation by residents. The first one, you may recall, was at the Art Center right outside of the complex here. And so that was the first community engagement meeting. We followed by a meeting at Barnes Park, the community center at Barnes Park. And then most recently, last month, at Foster Elementary School. So a way of providing more convenience for the southern part of the city. And that was also well attended. So in general, as you would attest, the feedback from the residents was that the categories as presented in draft did capture the essence of what they thought would be a good formulation of different categories that can then be used to categorize, to group the proposals. So having had the multiple discussions as well as your own deliberations here in your regular meetings, we feel that the list as we had presented now, we're now presenting it in effect as final for you to consider adopting this, knowing that these are guidelines, right? In fact, you will see in the subsequent items, because, this is in many ways a very exciting meeting, and I'll bring it up later as to why it's such an exciting meeting. But you'll see how we're utilizing the categories to then label each of the proposals, how they fall in one category and then the subcategory. And you'll see the flow. And as we move along over time, then the refinement can also begin to happen in the subcategories. But the ones that we have identified, and I'll just read them out for the record. Category A would be city and community empowerment. Category B, city workforce development. Category C, economic development. Category D, public safety. Category E, recreation and parks. Category F, senior community. Category G, sports development. Category H, street infrastructure. Category I, youth development. And then category J, miscellaneous. And those being the major categories, the subcategories, well, we included some for identification purposes, for, those can grow over time. But we included some under each category to exemplify what could fall under each one of them. So I'm recommending to the SOC that you adopt these as your guideline categories, and then as proposals come forward, as you will see in the later items, we're already utilizing the categories to identify them for your consideration.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Okay. So then would this be put to a vote at this point in time, Enrique?
If you approve the categories, then we will use this as the template.
But that's what I'm saying. Are we voting on them then?
Yes, you
Okay.
are voting on them.
Okay, okay. Then I will motion that we accept the categories as presented for this committee.
I will second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Could I clarify, was
I'm sorry.
it, Member Martha? Okay, thank you. Okay, Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Martha Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Van Wen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. So now we will move on to item 2, the inaugural proposal, request for Measure BP funding, two-way radios for the police department.
No pressure on the SOC, but this is your first request for funding. Of all the work that went on over the last year, this is the essence of the SOC, and Councilmember Avila will attest to the vision that the council had for the SOC, and it's playing out in this very instance by this first request. That's why we call it the inaugural first request, because this is your first request ever. In fact, Manny, we had to take a picture of the SOC after they consider it because they may not approve it. But So the first request, and you know, as the discussions were undergoing in the SOC, so how the methodology by which we would be bringing requests for funding to you, we concurrently were working on what was already taking shape as potential proposals. So, you know, there are many in the queue, but the ones that surfaced as the ones that we wanted to bring forward first are the ones presented here today. And, you know, as it was intended for the Measure BP to be able to provide the city with the means to acquire and do things that would otherwise not be possible funding wise. And this is a perfect example of such a critical item for the well-being of the city. And is the acquisition of two-way radios for our police department. And we think of police officers as obviously the officers themselves being the primary piece of that public safety component, but they must have two other big important pieces. Well, maybe more, but certainly, you know, a patrol car and a radio to be able to communicate. I mean, then there's other pieces of equipment, right? That, you know, but the radio is a critical component of them being able to do their job in all moments, but certainly in the most critical of moments, in the moments where, you know, life and the protection of life and property are on the line. And so in looking at the capacity of the city to be able to provide the police department with the right kind of equipment, were it not for Measure BP, we probably would still be talking about how we could make it possible. So we thought it was more than appropriate to have that be the first proposal that you consider. And the chief and Captain Hendricks are both here, and they will explain to you how this piece of equipment is so critical. The radios are close to 20 years old, and in the world of technology, and you know, that's ages old, just how even that technology has evolved over 20 years, but they're still making do with 20-year-old radios. However, they're able to magically still keep them running, and they'll tell you the kinds of things they have resorted to be able to keep them running. But, you know, they're on the line, and it's important that they need not worry about whether the radio is going to work or not. So, Chief?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not sure what the proper term is for the SOC, but thank you to the committee. One of the things that, you know, it's really important about the radios is the fact that they are over 18 years old. Just before Sergeant Velabel retired, he was actually disassembling old radios and trying to going on YouTube to look to see how to rebuild our radios, because that's how bad they are. Motorola no longer is making these radios. They don't no longer service the radios, and to get parts for these radios, they're almost obsolete. So we're at a critical stage for these radios, and then there's also mandates by the federal government and the state to have these radios encrypted. So we're falling behind in the process of what we need to get done with these radios. And again, you know, not only is it the radios, the handheld radios, but it's also the radios in the vehicles as well that we are trying to obtain. So this a critical need for us and our ability to also work with other agencies that surround the San Gabriel Valley, and even some of the other entities like CHP and the Sheriff's Department, LAPD, to be able to communicate with them in case of a mutual aid situation that we've had in, you know, a couple of occasions where we needed to communicate with them, and our ability is not as easy as it is with new radios. So we're desperately in need of these radios, and I wouldn't come to the SOC if I didn't think it was imperative to get these radios. So that is why we've proposed this request to you to review and approve if you so choose so. Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Going to sound like a. Would that allow for not just officers, all that are.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, your mic's not on.
Turn on your mic.
Okay. Aside from this, allowing our officers to communicate with other municipalities or with each other, would this also increase the response time to our residents?
No,
No?
it wouldn't increase the response time because we're not dispatching to outside entities unless it became a mutual aid. So if all our officers were tied up and they were on a situation here at Baldwin Park, we could reach out to the neighboring agents like Irwindale, Covina, West Covina, and El Monte to have them come in and handle calls for us, as we have done in the past. And the same thing, if they need help, we can respond to their calls as well.
Although, Chief, this new radio will allow for officers to communicate with other agencies, right, by switching the channel,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So that could lead to a faster response in that regard.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean so much to respond, but I guess just the call, even not the officer responding to the location, but just even the officer getting the indication that something is amiss.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. Yes, it does.
Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Okay.
I just want to make a comment on that since I ride along with the police department. Sometimes I say, how can you understand what is being said? You know, because I couldn't understand. They are improved, but I mean, it was really tough. So 100%. Communication is very important.
May I add something? I know I'm not part of the SOC or making a decision, but I have also I've gone on many ride-alongs with the Baldwin Park PD. And I've been on some pretty crazy chases, just different type of activities that if they don't have the proper equipment, they can put themselves in danger as well as the residents. So it is very important that their radios are properly working at all times, that they don't go out when they're in certain areas, and that they're able to hear what's being said to them from our command center, because they need to know what they're coming into when they get a call. And again, I've been on those calls, I've been on different ride-alongs, and I see the importance of being able to communicate properly with our police officers to make sure they're safe and that they're providing safe service for our community members as well.
So in the first 15 years of my career, I've been military police. And I do agree that communications is very important in combat, Army, police, right? I just want to ask, the two-way radio systems, is that amount would revamp the entire system? Or is it just in-car, or is it also handheld? What are we talking here? What about relay centers? You're talking about two-way radio systems. Is that what, 1.2 and some change? Well, that's not some change, 1.2 mils. What about the relay systems? What about the relay towers? How are we going to do that if we take out the old ones and put the new ones in? Are those unforeseeable expenses they're going to have to lay on us? Or what?
No, sir. At this time, the radio systems have been upgraded. Our dispatch has been upgraded through other grants that the department had obtained. The infrastructure that we're building right now is for current use and for the upgrade of the current systems. We do have, we're in an agreement with I don't remember the entity, but it allows us to operate within the region the Southern California region. So we won't have to incur any other costs other than the radios itself. So there's nothing to dispatch. There's nothing, one of the things that we're also adding is our ability to operate if our command system here at the city hall goes down, we have a mobile command post that we're also upgrading to ensure that we can still broadcast and make sure that whatever community events that we're having, we can broadcast from our command center, our mobile command center. So the costs, these are the costs that we're looking at for the department for handheld vehicle radios and some of the systems that we have to put into place.
Yes, sir. So in a way, it is a hardware. What about the maintains part? Is that lays on the city or us also?
No, you want to?
It is on. Good afternoon. As far as the maintenance, so with this program, and to answer your original question, yes, this is the entire project. This would be the entire cost for the city as far as all the equipment. This would include, I think the numbers are on the listed report. If I want to say off the top of my head, it was 64 handheld radios, 44 patrol unit radios to include our command post, and then 28 additional vehicles, which just have a different type of head face unit on it, just given that that'd be either admin cars, DB cars, undercover cars, stuff like that. So to answer your question, this project that we have the opportunity to present to you not only gets us up to speed with where we should be, but what excites us the most is this pushes our police organization will be taken care of for probably the next 2 decades, for I would say a good 18 to 20 years. So that's the opportunity portions that's there. You asked a question about the infrastructure. So we currently belong to what's called an ICI JPA. It's an interoperability communications interagency, that there's a regional one, and then there are smaller subsets of that, which we belong to, which covers this area. All that, the infrastructure that has already been put into place. We have requirements by Cal DOJ, requirements through Department of Homeland Security that talks about like P25 compliant, which just means a suitability and standard for the radios to move us forward into the future. Our current radios allow us only phase 1 encryption capabilities. These radios gives us to the Cal DOJ standards of having a phase 2 capabilities. In a nutshell, I know a lot of sort of techie information to provide you with, but just so that you are aware, like this gets us to, while this radio set has been around for a while, it gets us to where Baldwin Park needs to be. There are built-in maintenance or warranties with radios, and the standard being 3 years. It can be increased, but talking to other agencies, there's no need for that. Motorola is a tried and true product. It is the premier on the market for P25 compliant radios. The reason why we're requesting, which is more towards the city council staff report, the Motorola version, is because all the infrastructure, all the nuts and the guts of the system is all Motorola as well. So just so that there's some standardization across the platform, that's why we're going with this. There are RMS systems, but we're currently working with them to provide that for us. And what an RMS system is a radio management system. We buy these radios, they're basically a blank slate. We need to then what's called flash code them to upload the radios and the different channels that we want for the other agencies. These are unique because our old radios, once you go over the Kellogg Hill going east, once you get about halfway through LA County going west, these radios no longer work. Now, being part of this ICI system, we call what's patching in, or we can be relayed off of them. But with these current radios, even without the update, I can now listen to them in Riverside County, Corona, Anaheim, Orange County. This just gives us the ability to now tune into either LAPD, LASD, CHP. We'll have the capabilities with these radios if there's ever a multi-agency unified command where we have an Area D disaster, or we need to work hand in hand with other agencies. This radio, this program that we're presenting to you gives us that opportunity. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I got nothing follows.
I have a question. I may. So my question is, the system is about 20 years old, so this has been a need or a necessity, because obviously communication is essential for the safety of our community members. Why wait until the SOC to present or to request funding for this project? Or has it been presented to the city in the past and rejected? And if so, are we looking at funding solely from the SOC? Or not only implementation, cost, maintenance, infrastructure, everything that goes around it? Or is this a shared cost with the city?
So we have a portion of the fundings coming through that what's called BSCC. It's part of the state government where they're able to give us $300,000 towards this project. But to answer your question, to undertake a project of this magnitude, a lot of times goes beyond what funds can be generated for the PD or through, the ballpark general funds. And so there's always that balance test that we have to, there's, unfunded liability the city has to deal with. There's other departments. We haven't had the opportunity to present an idea like this for you. Typically right now, the only reason we're asking for the 64 radios is this has been a piecemeal project. So there are certain grants that I applied for through the city, even my predecessors have, that we would get like $50,000 through what's called a SHISHUP grant. But that would potentially buy us 8 radios. So right now we currently have, I want to say 26 radios on hand that are the Motorola 8500 Apex. But we now have this opportunity to say, hey, because of Measure BP, because of the SOC committee, we can do forward thinking. We can strategically plan to say, let's put this organization in a position to be taken care of in the future.
So that would be shared cost.
Outside of the $300,000, the costs were solely going to be funded through Measure BP.
Okay, thank you.
On this journey we're taking here with Motorola, we've looked elsewhere, or is this the standard for police law enforcement at this stage? Or is
So
that
yes to both. We have looked elsewhere. There are other radios that are out there. But I think Motorola, and this again goes more towards my presentation for city council, but I'm glad you asked the question. I believe that because of the infrastructure, because of the compatibility, because of the current system in place, this qualifies for us as a sole source vendor because of that they meet all the requirements, the P25 requirements, the phase 2 encryption requirements, because we have they're going to, it saves us in streamlining for maintenance if there's radio issues. We currently, through the ICI that I mentioned earlier, are on a 6-year agreement with them to service all the infrastructure. So this allows us to piggyback off a system in place that we're saying, hey, every product that's being maintained by us and serviced by you is one project or one process. So I kind of equate it to like how Southwest does it. Their success has been that they use one type of airline. Their service members learn how to work on it, train on them, fly them, and they don't have multiple airlines. It's the same thing, our approach with this radio system. We're using one system, so we know, and replacement costs are down. We know that they can be serviced by the one company, and it provides just a streamlined effect.
and you're with the Ballpark Police Department, or?
Yes, sir. I'm a captain with the Ballpark.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't miss your introduction there. On the other side, so we're looking 64 radios, 24 dispatch, and 28 was,
I think it should have been, and I don't have the sheet in front of me, excuse me, but the
Okay.
majority, the first number should be 64, I believe, which is for handheld radios. Those are the two-way interoperability radios that the officers would carry on them in a holder. They usually have a mic attached to their lapel. That's what they would speak on outside of the car. And the 44 would go towards patrol vehicles, would go towards our command center. And those are our black and white units. That would include our parking enforcement, our one CSO vehicle, and anything that has that sort of black and white aspect to it. And then the 28 would go towards our administrative vehicles, from the chief down to his lieutenants, to any administrative sergeant vehicle, to any detective vehicle, things of that nature.
okay. So basically, we're looking about $90,000 per radio with all the bells and whistles on it.
About $9,000 to $10,000 per radio. Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure we're all same boat here. Okay, thank you. Fine.
My question would be, what is the bottom line? What would it cost?
The total request from the SOC. So the total system cost is $1,547,301, of which 300,000 had been secured as the other leverage grant that the captain and the chief alluded to. So that cost minus the 300,000 leaves the portion that is being requested of the SOC, which is $1,247,301. With the clarification that the first drawdown will not begin until year 2. So the $300,000 will pay for year 1 of the 5-year contract. SOC will kick in year 2 and cover year 2, 3, 4, and 5. However, the approval has to occur on the front end because the contract will bind the city not just for 1 year, it's a 5-year contract. So the funding has to be there for all 5 years. That's why while the drawdown will occur in 2025, the approval has to be now.
So are we locked in at this amount, or is there the potential that in year 2, 3, 4, or 5, it could increase?
Is there an escalation? Is there an escalator? No.
No, there's not an escalator. What we're still in discussion with them is though, is if there's because they give us information late, is there an interest charge for doing it over not paying for it all up front? Because that wasn't presented to us though, I have a meeting with them tomorrow, because that wasn't part of the proposal that they gave to me.
And I have 2 more questions that were prompted by what I heard. So when you said now you'll have capability to hear what's going on within other municipalities, that would warn Baldwin Park PD when something is headed this way,
That is correct.
correct? Okay. And then to Greg's question, so that means that if we decided to go with another radio provider that was not Motorola, it actually might be more expensive because there would have to be an overhaul of an infrastructure that's already set here with Motorola.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have a question. So I know you're giving different numbers. The numbers that I see here on the agenda is 1,247,000, and you were stating 1.5 and the 300,000. Where do we see those numbers and the 64 radios and all those other? I'm just visual. I like to.
Yeah, no, so
I'm trying
sorry.
to take notes, but it's better if it's written in writing.
So you have 3 layers, at least 2 reports, right? The transmitter report that's from me to you that has the global number of 1,247,000, and then in the fiscal impact of that report, we break down how the system cost, and then what is covered by the 300,000.
I see. I don't think Chair Lara has it, and I didn't have it either. So
Oh, you don't
It-
have a
it's-
paper?
no,
Duh.
we don't.
It's part of the
Sorry.
packets that we mailed out on Friday.
Oh, I
And
see.
you link over to the agendas, and
Yeah.
that's where the staff report is.
They were delivered by hand?
No, they're
No.
given through the website.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we don't have printed copies?
No.
Oh, in the future, you want printed copies? We'll have printed copies for you. But sorry about that.
So does that mean that I'd have to log into the, because I was waiting for an email documents like that, but I had to actually click on a hyperlink?
So when I send out the agenda on the Thursday, it has a link.
Got
And
it.
from there,
Okay.
it gives you over to the website where you press meeting and agendas, and you'll see Measure BP stakeholders agenda with all the staff reports. You just click. You're welcome.
What we will do. All members is we will have printed versions for you at the dais. Sorry about that. And in the meantime, well, let me see. Could you open on your computer?
I have a copy
Do you have a copy?
if want to Don't
Also-
want to copy it.
Also, if you scroll down on your computer
It's there.
and you pass the agenda, the staff report's on there.
Oh, I don't lost it. I'll get back to this.
Yeah, my computer's not. It needs a password, so.
Uh,
But I can share.
while we're looking at this, I'd like for us to know, even though it's on the report here, even though it's on the report. Where'd you go?
Yes.
Oh, I wanted this back on.
You want that?
Yeah, I want that back on. And I was just talking while you were working on it
Okay.
to get it back on. Is monthly or yearly costs that it would cost the SOC coming out of the SOC money for this, or one shot deal?
It would be a yearly cost. It would be approximately $293,000 a year
Mhm.
after the first year. The first year where it's already covered by the $300,000 that was secured by the state, that was given to us by the state. And then the rest will be coming from the SOC as a yearly payment.
Okay.
And there's some refinement to your earlier question, Madam Chair, as to whether this amount is precisely finite. We had an installation cost that is included in here, but whether that can vary from one vehicle type to another, yes, that can vary. But in the estimate, we're still calling that an estimate because there's pieces that have yet to be fully negotiated or agreed upon, such as the detail of the installation.
So then this amount could change.
Could
even-
change.
Even after we vote.
Yes, we're hoping that it will change down, not up, with the exception of this interest that you were mentioning, Captain, right? Whether if we chose the payment plan.
Yes, that is correct.
So then if there was a change, I mean, I would want to see it go down too, but let's be realistic. If there was a change and we vote and it actually goes higher, how would that pan into this if we chose to say yes to this? Let's say we did that and it's a different amount.
Right. You will see that we have a good degree of confidence that this number will be. But in one of the other items, you'll see that we put in a contingency in there for you to pre-authorize us a higher amount. Here, we didn't put a contingency. Perhaps if the SOC would be so inclined, we would ask for a contingency for this one as well. Would you say 50,000?
I think that would be a fair amount. And the other thing is let's say there was an unanticipated cost. There's ways for us as a department to sort of mitigate and work with that. An example would be I could lower the amount of radios that I was purchasing by, let's say, an 8, right? Saving $80,000. I could then apply how I've been before, piecemealing it through a grant. So there's ways that we can, for lack of a better word, finagle the numbers. I feel confident, sir, that even if there's an additional charge that the PD could sort of encumber that through other areas or through other cost savings.
Yeah, it's just that, if to mark our own words to say that we will, and then we end up coming back to you for additional. But if you are so inclined to consider a contingency, we would request it.
Any other questions or comments?
Only comment I want to make is I think we need the best for our Baldwin Park Police Department.
And I will just share this little tidbit. Many moons ago, I was working for DCFS and I was working with Harbor PD. And it was just amazing to me. And I sat there in awe that I was in the detective's car. And the minute they called, within seconds, like 10 patrol cars were there. And I was like, whoa, which is good, right? When there's an emergency. So. Okay, so does the committee feel that we can vote on this tonight?
I make a motion that we vote on it.
So Pastor Jackson, are you making a motion to,
Yes,
Okay.
to
Can-
accept.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Can we add the
Louis.
contingency
Request that you do it,
Okay.
yes,
request
with the
it?
contingency of $50,000?
50,000.
Okay. Okay, I will second that motion. Roll call, please.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Van Wen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes,
Chair Lara,
Yes.
motion passes.
Wow.
Good. I only have one question. The motion are already passed. Did everyone have an opportunity to voice their opinion on what the amount was? And I wanted to make sure that we knew what the amount was and what we were truly voting on.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I think so. I think everybody gave their opinion and what they wanted, so.
good.
So just to make clear, we all understand we're not taking any SOC money until the second year, correct?
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Correct. Well, thank you. Now the picture. Manny, the picture.
Thank you, Manny. That's my good side.
You know, I think,
Manny's a pro.
I think the chief and the captain ought to be behind us. Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hold your seat.
Let me move this. No, everybody in love with.
Yeah, come on.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Excited because this was the whole purpose of that tax, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
And then if I may just add a comment, one of the things for every meeting that we had in the community, one of the things that kept coming up was safety and safety in the community and being able to say yes to this first one. I think it feels really good and, you know, to be able to make a difference and the community feel heard and for us to be able to act on it. So thank you.
And what's best is that they'll be able to start this, purchase the new radios, and it's not costing the SOC anything just yet. So that's awesome.
I just have a clarifying question now that we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this. So I know that we've passed this recommendation. So now it'll go to city council?
Yes.
Yes, so we will, this particular one, because of the other 300,000 component, the council held over an item on their agenda pending your action. So now we will join the two, and this will be brought to council at the next council meeting next week for their concurrence and final approval. So you're recommending now to the city council that this be funded.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we move on to item 3, proposal, request for Measure BP funding, 10 police patrol vehicles and 1 police support vehicle lease acquisition.
Yes, and staying with the public safety theme, And this, and I will share a story about a conversation I had with SOC member Jorge, and I forget what stage of the SOC development, but one of the things a SOC member Hernandez had asked me then was, Enrique, would the SOC funds, the SOC Measure BP funds be able to purchase patrol vehicles for the police department? And I think it was in the parking structure, George, where we had this discussion. And I could see that, you had been spending time about looking at the needs of the city, obviously across the board, but certainly in the police department. And that was sort of an early thought of yours. And here we are, fast forward 10 months or 11 months. And the second request for funding that you're being presented and for your consideration is precisely that, the acquisition of patrol vehicles for the police department. And because the numbers are important, let me read off, make sure I have the numbers, because I was thinking it's 9 plus 1, but I think it's 10 plus 1. Let's see.
10 plus.
And so we have, let me see here. Yes, so it's 10 patrol vehicles and 1 support vehicle. So a total of 11. Now, in the way that we have acquired vehicles in general, but certainly for the police department of late, is based on a lease program with a 5-year amortization. So we lease the vehicles. The cost is amortized over 5 years. And then at the end of the lease, depending on the usage, right? The patrol vehicles are intended to be used, obviously. And so they can get a lot of miles, and they generally do get a lot of miles. The chief considers 100,000 miles as being sort of the top mileage for a vehicle to be utilized. We don't always meet that, obviously, because many of the vehicles are over 100,000 miles. But this lease program with Enterprise will allow us to amortize it over 5 years, and therefore making annual installments on the acquisition. So either the chief or certainly the captain can explain to you the type of car that that has become sort of their patrol vehicle of choice. And Captain, you can explain what has happened with what used to be your vehicle of choice, which was the Ford Explorer, and that no longer being available essentially. So you guys have now switched to a Dodge Durango as your vehicle of choice. But go ahead and explain the makeup of the request.
Yes, sir, and thank you. Just as the CEO is stating, so typically what you see out in the field would be Ford pursuit rated vehicles, either in the form of just these days alone comes down to just the Ford Explorer. The problem with the Ford Explorer is they become so popular. And because of the backlog that was created years ago through COVID, you're now looking at windows that when the window opens for this year, it would be for 2025 vehicles. And the problem with that is they're only opening that up to individuals who applied for the 2024 vehicles, and they cut them off and they couldn't allow them to fund or purchase their vehicles. So Ford is now put themselves in a position to where departments like us, unless the vehicles could be found at an independent dealer, you cannot place orders with them. The Dodge makes 2 patrol pursuit rated vehicles, and the Dodge Charger, which we currently have in fleet, as well as the Dodge Durango. The Durango is ideally more preferred, just given the size of it, more room for the officer, actually more room for even a suspect placed in the back of a vehicle, and just its versatility being a utility vehicle versus just a car. Dodge is currently in stock right now, and even if there's vehicles that we could find, Enterprise goes to those dealerships and will negotiate for them, purchase them for their fleet, and then give them to us. So with the Dodges, if it is approved through the SOC, if it is approved then through the city council, which still takes time, we would be looking at about a 4 to 5 month turnaround. And that includes ordering the vehicle, getting the vehicle, and then still needing time to then outfit the vehicle, which includes from decals to the safety equipment, the lights, the sirens, installing the new radios from the previous proposal. So this unfortunately wouldn't take place if you approved it today within the next few months. It would take some time still.
So I have a question. As I'm perusing this, I didn't know officers were doubling up cars.
So that does happen occasionally. And while right now it's not currently happening, when we first started looking at this, if a car goes down because we were in a pursuit and then that car needs to be evaluated by the city yard, or if there's an accident that occurs, or if there's a servicing need, because of the finite amount of patrol cars that we can utilize in our current fleet, there are times when unfortunately officers would need to double up, or the sergeant would have to give up his vehicle and remain in the station. Obviously, at times we have 2 sergeants, so I don't want you to think there's not one out in the field, but it would only allow for one of them to go on the field. There are, and I'm not sure if you have the report in front of you, but there are some factors as to why we're requesting this amount. And as the CEO touched on, 5 vehicles have been identified as either being over 100,000 miles or high-use vehicles with that older year that puts them close to almost around the 10-year mark. The other factor that the city ran into is, I want to say back in 2018, we purchased new Ford Explorers, but they were year 1 hybrid vehicles. These 5 vehicles were purchased through AQMD money, through grant funds that were given out to the state to purchase these vehicles. Unfortunately, because they were hybrid, because they were year 1 models, they had so many unanticipated problems because vehicles driven by us, they could be continually used in a 24-hour cycle, meaning hybrids weren't developed to have that sort of durability. And unfortunately, most of those 5 vehicles, and I think I listed them in your report, they have been out of service, unusable, or at the Ford dealerships, probably up to this point for close to 6 months. Because we are a city entity, because of lemon laws that we've looked into, and we purchased more than, I think the number was 6 a year, we couldn't apply for lemon law. So what we're required to do now is try to sell these vehicles, auction them off, recoup some of our money, but ultimately those 5 need to be replaced. We've identified another 5 that need to be replaced. And this, by increasing our fleet by 10, you're actually helping us to then also mitigate the wear and tear on the vehicles, because we have a day shift and a night shift. Day shifts on average support 5 vehicles out in the field outside of any sergeants or any other specialized unit, and 6 at night. This allows us the ability to then designate daytime, nighttime vehicles, so they're not being driven in a 24-hour capacity. And then there's the less wear and tear on them. Another reason why we do a lease is for patrol. It's ideal. These are high vehicles that are still driven, even if we divide them between day and night watch usage. It allows us the opportunity at the end of the 5 years, we're sort of ensuring that we have this cycle of new vehicles for our police department for our first responder vehicles. We have the option when it comes to other vehicles like detective cars, which we're not purchasing today, but just to give you an idea, to at the end of the lease say, hey, these vehicles still have low mileage on them. We don't need to replace them. The city can then purchase them with whatever the difference is. And then that becomes a part of the fleet. So then we have both leased vehicles as well as purchased vehicles. And that's something that we look at through a sort of a managerial or fiscal lens to say, what's the best, are we getting the best usage out of these vehicles?
Thank you for that, because I did see this and I feel like that's putting our officers in jeopardy as they're trying to respond to the community, and can also impact that when I talk about response time, like being available to our citizens. My other question was, as far as maintenance, is that, how does that work? Because it is a lease. Are they responsible? Are we responsible?
Brought in my vehicle.
I should have said from the outset that this is a joint request from a police department and the public works department. So the running of the fleet is a joint effort by the police department and the public works department. Anthony with the public works department.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Anthony Vasquez. I'm the Public Works Maintenance Manager. So to answer your question, We do have an option for enterprise to take on that maintenance, but at this point in time, we decided to do the maintenance in-house. And then, because the city would incur an additional cost for enterprise to take on that maintenance.
You know, I was on about cost, so the $1 million for 11 vehicles, about $95,000, somewhere on there. Is that the vehicle purchased and then upgraded to all the bells and whistles that you guys need to patrol? Or is that there are additional costs to get the vehicles up to par to be on the road for you guys?
So the cost does include the outfitting of the vehicle and what that means, and that is quite a significant cost in and of itself. That's an additional $24,000, but that's to get it, the light bars, sirens, the safety bumpers on the front or back, the cage that they have to take out the back seat and then place in a protective safety cage for prisoner transport. This includes everything in the cost.
And the vehicles, these Dodge Durangos, are they the top of the line type vehicles?
They're the pursuit rated vehicles. They're the preferred choice by the rank and file members when asked which vehicles they would prefer over the Dodge Charger, the Dodge Durango, which is what we're proposing. The Fords are probably just as well liked, but unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, they're just not able to be purchased right now. And if I could add one thing to that, the Dodge Durango is cheaper than the Ford Explorer too. So there's a cost savings by making the switch.
Are any of these vehicles going to be hybrid going forward, or
These vehicles are not.
Okay,
I would,
Although the 11th vehicle, the support vehicle is fully electric. So the
when you're,
PD is making the leap into the new,
so there's going to be a charging station at the police station then?
what, Greg?
A charging station at the police station now?
We got some in the structure.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure.
we have four in the structure. We have the opportunity, if needed, to place one down in the garage, but it's almost that unique opportunity to say, hey, we are incorporating a fully electric, fully green vehicle into our fleet. While this vehicle will not be used for patrol, because right now the city of Baldwin Park doesn't have the infrastructure for that. We don't have the capabilities of constantly charging it, of rotating the cars around. But this gives us a community service vehicle that's replacing an older Trailblazer that we have, which is high mileage, multiple years old. It also gives us what we like to call a flagship vehicle that we can use for like our annual city parade when we go to Red Ribbon Week to the schools. It'll be outfitted. It'll have a light bar on it as well. It'll have all the oohs and ahs that the children in the community love. And it allows us to brand our image out there to the public. Still have that component of, going green or forward thinking in an all electric vehicle. But we just don't have the capabilities yet to do that on a patrol level. So we felt this was a good balance to meet some of the I won't say the needs, but the ideas of the city council and the mayor, and incorporate this into our request and into our fleet. While still meeting our patrol functions by asking for the other 10 vehicles. Yes, sir.
I got good choice on the Durango. I love them. I do have a question. Any of these money right here, this amount of money, would any of it would be spending for the old fleet, maintenance or anything, or it's just solely dedicated for the 10+1?
This is solely dedicated for the 10+1. And just like with the radios, the reason why we chose to do a lease is that we're not coming to you as a SOC committee. We're not trying to deplete this. Like, this is new to the city. We have an opportunity here with this tax measure. We didn't want to come in here and just take it all. This allows you guys to, if approved, take a look at this and say, okay, there's a yearly fee that's X amount of dollars versus an upfront cost, as you mentioned, of almost $1 million. This allows this, the payment or the money being asked of from the SOC to be spread out over multiple years.
Yes, sir.
Last thing on this, on the payment here, interest rate, anything going on, or is all built into this price right now?
Thank you. Yes, for this particular one, everything is built into it. And I even believe on this one, CEO, if I'm not mistaken, you've even added a buffer.
Yeah, we did request a contingency.
We don't foresee using that, but it just gives him as the CEO the opportunity to be authorized to go up and above.
I didn't ask on the last measure, but this 211,000 yearly, is that a one-shot deal, or are we making monthly payments throughout the year, or is it a one in January or December payment, or do you know that?
That's pretty. It's month, excuse me, it's monthly, but we do have the option to make a one-time lump sum, payment if we choose to.
Okay.
Would it be cheaper? Okay.
It doesn't save us anything.
You always have to ask.
Chief and Captain, is this a support vehicle? Can that be assigned to Morgan Park so we can take care of our seniors there? Because my concern is the safety of the seniors there and the senior center. Because as you know, anybody can walk in with gun or start shooting everything for, I mean, look what happened over there in Texas at the church and the schools and all that. And I trying to prevent that. And my concern for the Morgan Park and Senior Center is the safety of all the seniors. I wish that we can assign that car to Morgan Park.
Well, I can assure you that vehicle will be a part of our routine patrol to Morgan Park. While it won't be from the patrol side, it'll be through our community service office with Cynthia Espinoza. And so she's our community, part of her duty is being our community service officer. She will be the one who this vehicle will be assigned to. So when it comes to the senior center, when it comes to going to like the Baldwin Park Business Association meetings, to our clergy council, to any school events, if there's the East Side Little League opening and the police get invited to that, this would be our flagship vehicle for that sort of community outreach and engagement portion that we actively strive for every day when we're working here, is to connect more with our community. That's the primary purpose of this vehicle, is to be that showpiece, that caption piece, if you will, to interact with the community. Like, we want it to go out there so people can come up and say, wow, this is a neat vehicle. What is it? And then we get to engage in conversation with them. There's always those unintended benefits that when we get vehicles like this, that we get to utilize for our advantage and to, strengthen that connection with the community. So a little long-winded, I apologize, but yes, of course, if you guys approve it, I'll send that vehicle wherever you want.
With regards to the actual patrolling of the parks, I know, the council certainly has brought up that discussion as to how they can provide security to the parks directly. Jorge, as you were mentioning, Councilmember Damian has been discussing that, Councilmember Avila as well, and the entire council. So I think at the staff level, the chief, Manny, myself, the captain, and others are bouncing around ideas that we can bring to the city council, but they are definitely right now looking at how there can be more present patrol at the parks, Morgan and the other parks. So that's probably something that may very well come your way for the SOC. I'm not necessarily saying, but because the discussion is revolving right now, that at some point, to ensure you and give you the guarantee that there will be patrol there, once we're able to come up with something that has enough definition, whether it's in discussions at the council level, as I mentioned earlier, with Councilmember Damian voicing that as a priority as a general council, meaning for the entire council, that perhaps that would be something that we can bring to the SOC. Would you be something that you would be interested in, Board Member Hernandez?
Yes, yes. And one more question. I know it's gonna be impossible to do, but in case you wanted to get rid of the old fleet of the patrol cars that you have, you presently have, what will be the chance for Morgan Park to have just a decoy patrol car sitting there, so we can discourage the people that go in there and vandalize our city vehicles there in the parking lot?
Even-
Just to have some presence of the police department there to discourage these people that like to damage the city property.
So having a decoy car is a valuable asset or a tool that we utilize, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the oldest in the fleet. One of the things, though, that we need to be cognizant of is when we place it, how long we place it for, because then it becomes a known tool that they're like, oh, that vehicle's just sitting there. It's been there for a day. It's been there for 3 days. We know it's not manned. So what we typically try to do is we would move a decoy vehicle around one day at the park for a few hours, and the next day at like a CVS that's experienced some thefts at their location, because you would trust me when I tell you that the criminal element, they're witty, to say the least, and they catch on to these sort of things. So we just got to be careful in how often we utilize a decoy vehicle,
Mhm.
but it's definitely something that we try to use. Sometimes the friendly reminder of, hey, we're having issues at this time of night. If you share that with us, that's when we can fully, take advantage of what the issue is and send either a decoy vehicle out there or our officers. And we instruct them, get out of your car, go walk around, shake somebody's hand, see how their day is, go meet your community. That's the biggest push we're trying for right now.
May I say something?
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, and correct me, Chief, if I'm wrong, but I know that we're still working on staffing. We're still trying to bring more men and women on board. And once we are fully staffed, of course, that will increase our patrolling in all the areas, not just the park. So I know he's been hiring people. We've been swearing in new police officers. So just keep in mind that we don't have a full police force just yet, but that is the goal, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
That
as
is-
soon as we have a full force, of course, we're going to have more patrol in every area of our city, and we will have focus areas, the ones that we need. We feel, the chief and the captain feel that they need more attention, and I'm sure they will make a plan for that. But that's the goal, and that's what they're working on, getting a full patrol out there, a full force.
One of the things that I was impressed with in the city of industry coming home, in the shopping centers, I saw police officers, the car, they didn't say the police officer, and all the bells and whistles going. And then as they're driving on another shopping center, the bells and whistles going on. I said, what's going on here? And I got to thinking about all the snatching, grabbing, and the people going into the stores and undressing and putting on their own clothes. That's a good decoy for a detour for people that want to go in, snatch, grab, or there's an officer out right out front. So you'll get them, Chief. You'll get them. We're praying.
Any other questions?
I think when we discuss the senior center and that, my mother-in-law goes there every day, so I've been there and seen it. I think it's definitely one phase with the police department patrolling the park. The other thing is actually a security deterrent there, a fob system, because you could walk right in the front door. I walked all the way to the back. Nobody stopped me. I walked right in. Another time I picked up my mother-in-law and there's a homeless person using the restroom, not in the restroom, in the hallway, there, and just basically walked out. But I think it's a two-phase security there for the senior center. Not only the police department, but to some type of a fob or a key system, or the door is locked and you get buzzed in, something to that effect. Because definitely I've been there and seen where the transients are there at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning. They're looking for something and they're trying to find people with, they always ask my mother-in-law for food or money or whatever before she walks in. So we usually walk her to the door. So on that note, on the security, on the senior side, I think it's a two-phase. If we could get, I know the police department's not at full force at this point in time, but if we could work toward a security system for the senior center, that may be one of the aspects we go forward with first before the police department's full on that end.
So proposal, I hear proposal maybe.
Okay. And then can we ask the question of the chief, where are we at with the police force? How many police officers do we have and how many do we need? Or is that
I'd
hide?
love to give you those answers. I think it's a great question and it's something you guys should ask. If I can just add one quick thing too, as far as with the parks, one thing the chief was able to recently do is right now we only have a one-man team that was out there that dealt with both parks, and their primary focus with the parks was with the homeless community. You know, it's something the city really has taken the forefront on, is to balancing, the individual rights of that person who's experiencing homelessness, but also the needs of the community, and to say, these are quality of life issue concerns that we're addressing. So the chief has recently given us authorization to add a second member to that team. So he's currently in the workup stage right now, and it's multifaceted and it's pretty exciting actually, that involves the businesses, the parks, the communities. But ultimately what that's going to give us is, instead of 4-day-a-week coverage, it's going to give us 6-day-a-week coverage. And as we continue with our recruitment efforts, the schools, the parks, the homelessness, the mental health concerns, those are on the forefront of what we're trying to, I don't want to say combat, but address, right? Because this isn't a us against them sort of mentality. It's how do we provide the long-term solutions versus the short-term of or enforcement actions. It's resources provided. It's working with, Director Carrillo and his staff over at the parks to say, how can we work in unison with the resources that they have through LACADA and through other measures and other social services groups. So trust me, we're in this for the long haul when it comes to coming up with solutions for the park. As far as recruitment, I'm excited to say we're moving full steam ahead. We currently have 3 what I would call lateral officers, and that means previous or prior experience at either sheriff's department or a police agency, that are on backgrounds with us right now. We have 2 already patched recruits at the Rio Hondo Police Academy that gets ready to graduate, I want to say, in May of this year. And we're looking at 2 others to patch within the next 2 weeks. There's a recruitment day that's taking place actually Monday. And there's a couple, what we call homegrown, and that's residents or young men and women who've attended and grew up in this city, because there's a special sort of bonus when we can get somebody who was raised in the community of Baldwin Park that we're looking at, that we're getting ready to offer, or I don't say offer jobs, but offer to place them into a background process with us in hopes that they'd become employed with us. So between the 4 and the 3, that's 7 of our current vacancies out of 12 right now. Our goal is to meet those 12 vacancies, and then we can go to the CEO to then unfreeze an additional 7 positions that we have to get back up to full staffing. Because with that then comes even more opportunities, specialty assignments, specialized focused assignments that can, deal with the city's needs. So we're in a very good place right now under Chief Lopez's direction when it comes to recruitment.
May I ask, after their hire date, how long does it take to vet them and get them ready to be out on the street? If we get them in end of March, is it June, July?
So if
Yes.
they are laterals and they've already been through what's called a field training program, or basically just that they've already trained in the fields through what post standards are, then we typically keep them on for 10 weeks, 3 weeks of in-house stuff to go over constitutional law, procedures, search and seizure, understanding, just, we want to vet, even though they're laterals, we want to vet that they know what they're doing. And then we put them in a 7 weeks in the field program. So it takes about 10 weeks for a lateral. And for a full training program with the Baldwin Park Police Department, it's 24 weeks. And that 24 weeks is needed because we want to assure that we're teaching them everything we can, getting the best quality from them, and have had the time to address any concerns that may not have come up. There's a lot of times we can have a new officer, we're like, wow, he's sharp, he's ready, but we never want to rush that process. And there's a reason for that. So to answer your question, 10 weeks for laterals, up to 24 weeks, or not up to 24 weeks for new hires.
Thank you.
One of the other things that we also do is all the officers that are coming through now are spending time in dispatch, so they understand the dynamics of dispatch. They ride around with our homeless detail officers, so that they understand the dynamics that they have to deal with when they're dealing with people that are homeless. And they also ride around with our GAP or gang detectives, so they understand the dynamics as well. So I want them to understand all aspects of the department, so they're not reluctant to do those kind of things. And so it has proven to be very worthwhile. The officers that we put through this process all agreed that it was a great thing to do, to see the other aspects, so that we're not just limited to just a patrol, because it's not a patrol function, it's all our functions. So that's one of the things that we've been instilled in, and it's proven to be really, really worthwhile. So that's the other things that we're adding to the program. So there, again, it does take a while for us to get officers out, and The unfortunate part is that, the understaffing, it does take time. And I do look for officers for the future that they're committed to the community. And that was my commitment to the council, is that the people that we hired were to return back to the community, make sure that they were a fit for the community, not just because I can hire people. It doesn't make sense to hire just because I can. I need to understand Baldwin Park.
I have a question. Are the officers or the 12 positions, did they leave? Are you filling them? Or were these vacancies, or was there a freeze?
It's a little bit of everything. It's vacancies, it's retirements, it's officers that have decided to maybe to go to another agency that's closer to their home. So there's a lot of different factors. So, we continue to try to hire to fill in those vacancies, but we're, again, because of the timing it takes to train somebody and get them out, it does take a little bit of time for us.
Okay, so as far as item number 3, would anyone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion to vote.
I second the motion. Roll call, please.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Member Martha Cárcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Van Wen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes.
motion passes.
Amen.
I'm glad everybody asked questions because I know the community that's around me, they'll ask me in a couple weeks what's going on, and we have a lot of little detail. We have what it's costing us, et cetera, and what we're doing with it and what we're replacing and how we're going forward. So thank you everybody for asking questions. So we know a lot more about it. Thanks.
We appreciate your healthy discussion as well. And I know Chair Lara had committed to finishing by 6:30. So we have 3 minutes for the last item.
Okay. Item number 4 is proposal request for Measure BP funding architectural services for concept report for the proposed sports complex.
Yes, so this is also a very exciting undertaking by the SOC. You have invested quite a bit of time and effort on this already. We made 2 excursions in the region. Not everybody was able to make both of them, but by and large, everyone made at least one of the 2 excursions. And the idea for doing that was for both the SOC and we as staff to paint a vision of what a sports complex can include and what it can, be included in its scope. And so we got quite a variety of, quite a spectrum of many amenities and particular features from each one of the visits. One that came to mind for all of us as we sort of arrived at the location was the 100-acre park in Southgate. And we all are looking at it in somewhat in awe, only because, you think back of when that city was founded, which I think, that park might have been 100 years old or older, and how that city was able to set aside that much land for such a park, which we saw how many things could all be brought together in one location to create civic life, to promote fitness, to promote community building, to promote all sorts of other things. So that was one of sort of the vision points. And many of us were able to go to the city of Upland and their aquatic center, all glass enclosed with a retractable roof, somewhat like I was going to say like the SoFi Stadium, but the SoFi Stadium is actually fixed roof with ventilation on the sides. This is retractable. as you saw, which for a swimming pool that's generally indoors makes all the difference. And Manny will tell you that. And so I think we were all really impressed with that particular amenity. And then we can go on and on with all the other visits. The one in Chino Hills, as an example, smaller in size, 28 acres or so, that created so much community with people of all ages, of different sports, for sure. All of them outdoors. The one in Chino Hills did not have an indoor facility. But anyway, that gave us all a range of what that potential visioning could be. Not yet making any kind of determination on how much of that could be possible or even feasible here in the city of Baldwin Park. Because we're still going by our aspirations. And much as Pastor Jackson indicated earlier, we want the best for the city of Baldwin Park. And why not? And so what we are proposing for your consideration for approval is to bring on board the services of an architectural firm, an architect, who can then transfer some of the vision statements that you have already captured, and we will capture even more by holding community participation meetings where folks have the opportunity to voice what they would like to see at the community level. We've already have laid out somewhat of a vision ourselves, right? Yeah, that vision said we want everything. Yes. And we will continue to aspire for that. But, folks, the community may say, well, look, we definitely want this. I keep joking about pickleball because it's such a craze still with folks, converting tennis courts to pickleball courts. And that trend continues. So anyway, this architect will help us translate all of this onto some kind of report. I call them renderings, but they're not going to be any kind of construction renderings by any means. They're visualization tools that can then be utilized for the next steps that lie ahead in this effort. And so, Manny, if you want to also speak
Yes.
to this.
Yes, thank you, city manager. I think Enrique covered all the major bullets. When we went out to ask the community if they would consider a 3/4 cent sales tax, there were some definite elements that they wanted. They wanted public safety, which you addressed this evening, and also they wanted additional green space. It is already well known that the city of Baldwin Park is one of the highest needs in the in the nation in terms of having so little green space. Out of all 88 cities in Los Angeles County, we rank near the top of having minimal green space. So once again, the community did ask for green space, and I think this sports park definitely fulfills the need. As city manager mentioned, it is merely conceptual. We will not create any type of blueprints. We would incorporate the assistance of a architect to extract all the information from the community, sports groups. I tend to think each site would be approximately 10 acres. I would think that we would probably craft several renderings in regards to a project. I've been reaching out to architecture firms the last few weeks. Generally speaking, if we construct in 3 to 4 years, their estimate, merely an estimate, is approximately $1.2 million per acre. So if we had 10 acres, that would be about, I believe, about $12 million, but that's just a quick math in my head.
Would that be for open space,
Yes.
outdoor stuff?
Yes.
Not like an indoor type of gym, right?
Yes, more outdoor, I was floating the ideas of soccer fields, baseball fields, softball, pickleball, basketball courts, walking trail. I think outdoor restrooms as well as playground apparatus. So we are definitely in need of green space, and I think this is a step in the right direction. And with the decommissioning school sites, I think we may have a unique opportunity to create some additional green space. Thank you.
So this 80,000, I guess I'm just trying to understand. It's not an architect plan. It would just be a visual picture. They would show us like pictures on a screen of potentially what it could look like.
It,
That's
it
what you
would
mean?
have space layouts, for example, if we gave them a hypothetical potential site, hypothetical, because we, as you would know, Chair Lara, our discussions with the school district have been only preliminary, and we by no means are pretending to say we will have those sites available. We are definitely engaged, as you know firsthand, and we hope that that does lead for some sort of joint partnership with the school district for the good of the community. But this rendering would be able to present a visual of what the sports complex can be. One, if it were all together and we had 40 acres all in one location. Two would see if you were to divide it up in two locations, what could go on one and what could go on the other. And we have some intuitive understanding ourselves. You may want to have all the open outdoor in one and all the indoor in the other. But, you know, an architect with a trained expertise can lead us in that and then translate it to some visual rendering.
So it would cover those meetings to collect information. It would cover different renderings, like Manny just indicated. I guess I'm just trying to figure out.
And a cost estimate, and we call it like a rough estimate, Class C estimate.
So that's
It's,
what the 80,000 would cover.
yes.
I have one question. And this 80,000 is for a one-time shot that they're gonna render it and tell us we have A, B, and C, and this is what you get, and it's a one-time $80,000.
One time, correct.
Okay.
If I could interject, if everyone is familiar with the small park on the north end of town, it's a empty lot. It's approximately 9,000 square feet. We have, the city has secured a architect for that project through a competitive process. And I believe we are compensating that architect for that small parcel, $212,000. So, and that is the conceptual, the blueprints, they call it PS&E, plan specifications and as estimate, everything required to go out to bid. So securing an architect is very costly.
But this might be good, right, Enrique? Because we can share these with the district,
The
final renderings.
oh, of course, and you know, you would know how to best continue the dialogue with the school district, because you know, we want to ensure that this is by no means preempting
No.
anything that the school district may in the end decide to do. We know what we would like them to do for this effort, but this will allow us to engage in more substantive discussions with the school district.
Right, and I am acknowledging it's not a guarantee, but I think it's a different presentation using words versus like a finished product.
Yeah. So this will have renderings, and you know, we'll have enough architectural features on there. You know, maybe a pictorial. So
Anybody else?
We're looking at at least a 10-acre land, right?
well, so you know, we're saying, I mean, if we had one single piece of land, and you know, how much acreage would we need to house all of the things that the SOC already has ideas on and what the community is going to give you feedback on as well. And then the architect will say, okay, for all of that, you will need 22 acres. And then we'll say, well, okay, do we have 22 acres? We don't. But there may be the possibility of 2 10-acre sites. Now that gives us 20 acres.
And one of the reasons why I asked that, because I've worked with some people in Yucaipa, and they are building a church, and the architectural plan for an acre and a half was $60,000.
Mm.
Acre and a half, and this is about a 10-acre.
Yeah, the conceptual or the actual drawings for the construction. It depends. This is not going to be the construction ready drawings. This is going to be only the well, it's called conceptual drawings.
As a community, we get to input and tell them what we like to see. That's what they're doing. Is it kind of like we did when we did the Safe Streets, when we have meetings and ideas on what we wanted to see, Manny?
Yes, yes, we would have public engagement meetings with the community in regards to what they would like to see. I think generally speaking, since we've attended so many public engagement meetings and we're very close with the community, we already know that they're looking at softball diamonds, baseball diamonds, soccer, open space, and even maybe some indoor space. We have many voids in the city, so this is a step in the right direction to try to rectify some of those voids.
As an example, when we reach out to the Little League baseball community, you think SOC member Orozco that they will say, look, we would like to have all 3 leagues in one single complex? You think they will say that?
Absolutely not.
But we have to
Other
engage
than-
them.
Yes. We mentioned it at one of the meetings and it was a definite not. So it's ballpark's, what is it, 7.5 miles wide or whatever, but it's from the east side or east siders, and the kids from Ballpark American are Ballpark American kids, and they don't differ, and they're gonna stay in their own neighborhoods. So yeah, we're gonna need more than one.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
I just think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to present something, get feedback, and then they can actually see
Mhm.
the money that's going to be invested in what they really wanted.
I just have, and that could be on a little bit later, as our closing. We've done 2 sites on the south side. I wanted also something to be done on the north side. So the north side of Baldwin Park would not be able to say, well, why didn't you show us or deal with us there on the north side as you did with the south side? You know?
That's a great idea. Pleasant View comes to mind.
As a, yeah, or Margaret Heath.
Yeah, okay. For the engagement for this.
Okay.
Just one question, how sure or how positive is that the school district is gonna give us the schools? I mean, because if we're not gonna be able to get it, we're gonna be throwing money out the window. You know, that's my concern. I understand what that you want to present a package of what it's going to look in one school and the other one if it comes to a sport complex. But my worry is this: okay, we spend all this money and then they're going to say no.
Right.
Yeah.
No, a very valid point, Jorge. And you know, it's sort of like a company going after a business development opportunity, right? Including ourselves as an agency, we have to invest money to secure something. And this is that sort of investment that you must invest, but very, very prudently, because we're only talking $80,000. Is one thing if we were going to spend the full development of construction drawings, which can get up in the, $1 million, and not have a site secured. This step, I believe we have to take to be able to pursue the opportunity. So to try to have the bird on hand at this juncture, ideally, if we did, that would be awesome. But I think between the SOC and the city council and us as staff, we have to read the school district so that we work with them as they become ready. And I think that's just around the corner. That's just my feeling.
We walk by faith and not by sight.
Yep.
Yeah, and to me, I think it is a valid point, but I think it's an investment that I think we won't be able to reap those benefits if we don't,
True.
invest
Yeah.
right now.
And like I said, I think it would be it would be a way to persuade because they can actually envision the possibilities. And I think with the community behind us, even more so to see the potential of what could happen, I think those could be our other advocates to the district. So, it's not just words anymore or an idea, but it's actually a concrete vision.
And a reminder that we're both serving the same community members, the district as well as the SOC and the city council.
And I think it's a way of giving back something that they feel was taken away from them. The closures of the schools, that are so meaningful to us. For me personally, seeing Pleasant View being closed was, it hit my heart because that's where I went to school. That's where my daughters went to school. So to see that could be utilized, it actually gives me hope for something, new generations can actually be able to utilize. So I think it'll be something giving back to the community of something that was, taken.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And I think it's, you're seeing it reimagined. Mhm. Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion?
Well, I'm excited and I move the motion to vote on this.
I'll second.
I'll second. Yeah.
You got it.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Van Wyn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. So now we move on to the money piece, Measure BP Sales Tax Financial Update.
Hi, good evening, chairs and members of the committee. I'm very pleased to tell you, as of the end of January, the balance in Measure BP is $4.667 million. I am very confident we can reach the original projected revenue in $6 million.
Couple months, we should have it.
Thank you.
Yes.
See, Rose gets to be the bearer of good news.
That's good news.
But there are lots of work behind the good news. And I've been daily as excited as all of you. This get passed and it's such a great, awesome news that make me feel happy every day. for the community.
Any questions? So next we move on to item 6, stakeholders oversight committee meeting minutes. I motion to pass the minutes from December 12th, 2023. Can I get a second?
Yes. Second.
Member Hernandez,
Yes.
member Marta Carcamo,
Yes.
member Orozco,
Yes.
member Van Wyn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. So the oversight committee, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 12th at 20 on 20. Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Is there anyone on the committee wishing to make any statements or requests at this time?
For the comment that I just made about the school district that, giving us the land, I don't want to sound negative or anything like that. I wasn't referring to that, but because let's say that something happened and
Right.
we already talked to the community about what the plans are. And it'll be kind of sad if we don't pull through with the sport complex. I hope that the school district will give us the land. I hope so. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
you're right. We have, like you say, we have to invest.
Okay.
But yeah, because the community is looking for those two places, two sport
Mhm.
complex.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, if not, George, you'll have the best senior citizens
Yes.
center in San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, with the MB, the San Gabriel Valley. And we're working on it so we can better it.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I hope one of these days, we get to bring it up one of these days.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Speaking of off the topic, did anyone see the movie that was filmed there? Manny, what was that movie?
It was actually filmed at the community
at the community
center. It was the title of the movie is White Men Can't Jump. It was
Oh.
a movie that was filmed 30 years ago, and they had a updated version. I believe it was released on Netflix.
Yes.
So yeah, it is.
So I saw partial parts of the movie and I was able to see our community center, our boxing ring and all of that area there.
Yes.
So if you get a chance, look at it. And it's new. It's pretty new. Was it 2 years ago? Last year?
I think it was
They
2 years.
filmed it during COVID, and
During COVID,
it
yeah.
was released within the last maybe 6 to
Yeah.
8 months.
It's exciting to see our.
Baldwin Park in the movies.
So now you know why the MB of the San Gabriel Valley.
And since you brought that up, I'd also like to highlight the city negotiated an agreement with the Disney company that filmed that movie, and the city secured well over $100,000 for about 14 days of filming. Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, if there are no other comments, I'll go ahead and move to adjourn this meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Go for it, brother.
Meeting is adjourned at 6:54 p.m. Thank you for being here.
Amen.
Thank you.